Welcome to It Can Be You with Jordana. Soul-to-soul conversations with trailblazers and entrepreneurs to uncovering the why and the how behind your success. So today we're going to be speaking to Pandora Amoratis, who is the former style director of Daily Mail and an influencer. This interview today with Pandora is really special to me because I've gotten to know her over, I would say, the past 4 years, maybe a little bit more. And she's just somebody not only who has such excellence in what she knows of the fashion industry and how she's kind of approached it and got into it, but also just such a bright light. So I've always felt that fashion is the one industry that if we use it right, we can amplify messages and voices of things that are not being looked at. And actually, fashion can really save the world in many ways. All of my success in life today has been in the fashion world, which is kind of ironic considering I never got into fashion because of my love for clothes. I got into fashion because of my love for people. And only 7 years ago, I started a company that I didn't know anybody in fashion when I started the company. And 7 years later, I had 1,200 of the biggest fashion names in the world speak at my events. Today, we're phone, text message, friendship basis with all of these individuals. And a lot of people say to me, wow, you must be really good because you broke into an industry that's really hard to break into. And I always think to myself, well, I didn't do it because I know much about fashion, because I really don't. But I know people. And I think for the first time, these big names in the industry saw someone that really was putting something together to help others, and it came from a genuine place with no ego. And because fashion, unfortunately, is an industry with a lot of ego, it was refreshing for them, and they trusted me, and that's how my company evolved so quickly. So Sex and the City is a show that I grew up on and that I'm still obsessed with. Actually, in fact, I watched all of the seasons again just a few months ago, and I just finished it for like the 20th time in life. And what I love about it is the expression, self-expression, that fashion, is used in that show when it comes to, especially Carrie Bradshaw as a personality in that show. Fashion is a big key element of it. So you see how they interact with it. You see some of the moments that they bond when they go buy shoes or when they do fashion shows for each other, when they're moving out of apartments. Like, there's always a component of fashion that's thrown in there. But outside of that, it also shows you like a beautiful thing when it comes to taking risks in life and being okay to take those risks because of the friendship that they formed. So at the end of the day, they know they have each other.
Welcome to the wardrobe of Sex and the City. I'm gonna take you around and show you how this whole magic happens. There is so much wardrobe in Sex and the City that I think the main challenge here is just keeping it all straight. It comes from Paris, it comes from Italy, it comes from New York, it comes from everywhere. This is where we store our wardrobe. Each of the 4 girls have their own section, like their closet, and then the rest of the room is taken up by our other cast. So you could see this is quite an operation.
I think what I'm looking forward to in this interview today with Pandora is that she's someone who really follows her intuition in making big life changes. And because she follows her gut, she doesn't have the fear going into these changes that normally would take someone else a lot longer to do because of fear, because of not knowing what's to come. And I'm just really excited to talk to her about her journey and those transformations in life. You're listening to It Can Be You with Jordana. Today I'm here with Pandora Amoratis, who I'm a huge fan of, who is the former style director at Daily Mail and an influencer. Welcome to the show, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I'm so excited about this.
Me too.
So the first question I have for you, and I'm really excited to hear your answer actually to this, is for those people that don't know who you are, how do you define yourself? Who is Pandora Amoratis?
Okay, that's so hard. I'm a fashion girly, I would say. I'm a creative. I'm an adventurer. I would say I'm an adventurer and a homebody, you know?
I like that mix.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's important to have balance. I'm a Leo.
Okay.
I'm a sister. I'm an aunt. You know, I'm a proud aunt. My nephew calls me Auntie P. And I love that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I love that you just said that you're a homebody and an adventurer. I think that's something I really want to get into. I think that's amazing. Your dreams going into your career.
Yeah.
What were they, and did it kind of pan out the way that you expected it to? Did it kind of come like universally in that way, and you kind of accepted that into your life? Like, talk me a little bit through that journey.
Okay, yeah, that's like such a multi-layered question. It was what I always wanted to do. Like, I honestly didn't even consider doing anything else but fashion. And I think that just stemmed from when I was a little girl. I always loved it. Like, my mom said that she would dress me, like, at a very young age. I would go into my bedroom and change.
Oh, okay.
And I kind of always had, I don't know, just kind of like the love and the passion and the creativity. I remember going shopping with one of my aunts, and she would go into the dressing room, and I would be on the floor of the store, like pulling things for her. And like bringing them in. And she said that, like, I would always bring in things that she like overlooked and things that were really interesting.
Yeah.
So I never considered doing anything else. And when I was younger, I was very driven. So when I was in college, I interned every single summer. And I think it was kind of, you know how Oprah always says, it's like when preparation meets opportunity. Yeah. So that's essentially what happened. It was like I was prepping all those years during college. And this story is so crazy because this literally has been kind of what has happened throughout my entire career, which is so weird. So one of my internships was at Esquire magazine.
Okay.
And it was towards the end of this, or actually, I want to say I was graduating, and one of the guys had set up an interview for me, which I thought was so kind, but it was with like a big retailer. And I actually had no interest in the job at all, but I was like, let me just go out of respect for this guy. I'm going to go and, you know, whatever. It's an interview.
Yeah.
So while I was on the interview for this job that I didn't want, the woman said to me, you know, you have so much magazine experience. Why don't you want to work for a magazine? And I was like, well, you know, I was honest. I was young. I said, actually, I do.
Actually, I'm here, but I don't want to be here.
I don't actually want this job. I actually do want a magazine job. And she said to me, you know what? I know that they're looking for a fashion assistant at Cosmopolitan magazine. Do you mind if I fax them your resume? And I was like, what? No, I don't mind. And she faxed my resume to the fashion editor, and that was literally that was the first job I got.
Wow.
I was interviewing for something completely different.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And it's actually like, it shows a lot of just inner kind of guidance of because it takes a lot of, let's say, like balls to like, you know, be like, actually, no, yeah, I don't really want this job. I want to do that.
Or stupidity, you know what I mean?
No, but it's like being like unapologetically you,
Yeah.
which I feel like that's what I always get from you when I'm around you.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks a lot to that. And it's funny you mentioned the kid thing, and I'm going to look into it now, but my 7-year-old every time I go shopping. So when she goes to school, she loves to do something different in fashion with her uniform. So she'll put like one leg up, she'll put a beret out of nowhere. And when we go shopping, she goes and pulls things out that I'm like, I'm not going to put that on. She's like, just try it, mommy. And then I try it on. I'm like, wow, this actually looks really good.
So she has
so
it.
That I know. I need to look
fashion.
into that. Yeah. So you talked about preparation and, opportunity with the quote from Oprah, but also like growing up as a kid, knowing that you've always wanted to be in fashion. But how much was it for you kind of like, so I feel like there's a lot of spirituality in you. So how much of what you have done to today have been kind of like universe led?
All of it.
All of it. Okay.
Well, maybe not all, but
yeah,
a good percentage. It's so crazy. But I feel like that Cosmo job was like a good example as to how like the universe just kind of stepped in, you know? I mean, even like leading up to my Daily Mail job, that also was very like the universe. Do you want to hear the story?
Yeah. I'm like, yeah.
I want to get comfortable for this one.
I would love it.
So I was working at OK Magazine at the time. And I tend to stay at jobs for a long time. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think I just get comfortable. And if I enjoy it, like, why would I leave?
Yeah.
So I was there for a really long time, maybe like a decade, like start to finish. And somebody had texted me that I used to work with saying, I want to recommend you for a job. A friend of mine is looking for a fashion editor, director, whatever it was, at Daily Mail, and I really want to recommend you. And she said, you're the only one I want to recommend, which I remember thinking that's so weird because when I worked with her, I wasn't the director. Like there was somebody above me. So I was like, huh, that's really weird. I wonder why me, you know?
Yeah.
So on the day that I was going to go on the interview, I went to get a blowout, which is like a whole separate thing. I like to blow my hair out when I'm doing something.
Get it? I get it.
You get it? I think it looks sleeker. Yeah. Like, I don't know. So I was like, let me go get a blowout for this interview. So I go to the dry bar, or whatever it was, and I bump into somebody else that I used to work with. Uh-huh. And the first thing she said to me was, hey, didn't you get my message? And like I hadn't. So I was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And I guess she had messaged me on Facebook, and I really wasn't on Facebook at the time. I'm still kind of not. So I didn't see it. And she's like, I messaged you. They're looking for a fashion editor at my job, and I wanted to recommend you. And I literally, this is so rude, but I like stopped listening to her. Like she was like it was like I'm seeing her mouth still going, but I'm hearing nothing. Because in my mind, I'm thinking, well, I'm already going on an interview today that I don't even want to go on. Yeah. So I just kind of stopped listening. And then as she kept going, I said, wait, where do you work? And she's like, I work at the Daily Mail. And I'm like, what? Like I'm literally so going crazy. There today at 2:00. And I told her who I had an interview with, and she's like, oh my God, I sit directly across from her. So it just was weird because it was like she messaged me. I never got her message. Yeah. So somebody else swooped in and sent me this message. So then I go on the interview. It went great with this woman because she had already heard an earful about me by the time I even got there. Mm-hmm. And I really liked what she had to say, and I was like, okay, like maybe this is a job that I'll take. The next interview was with like the head, and it was on Christmas Eve. And I'm like, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, Christmas Eve.
And I was sick. So I kind of now I really didn't care. Like I didn't want to go. I was like in no mood. But I go, he's asking me all the questions. And I think I don't know if I loved everything that he had to say. And because I was sick, and I just felt like when I left there, I'm like, there is no way that I got this job because I didn't even impress myself. Like, there's no way I impressed this man. And I remember him telling me that they interviewed like 18 people. He's like, we've interviewed something crazy like that, like 18 to 20 people, and you're the last one. Yeah. So I left there going, okay, whatever. It's Christmas. I didn't get the job, but it's Christmas. Who cares? And then all of a sudden, like a week or two later, I get a call from like their HR that essentially I guess I kind of had gotten the job, and she was, telling me all these things. Wait, story is not over. This is a long story.
No, I want to hear. I'm like, I'm blown. And it's all like, just as you're telling, and I want to hear everything, but as you're telling me the story, I just think it's like, I mean, you're an obvious example of like, I think we're all in this earth to like, do like there's like a written story for us already. Yeah. You know, how we adapt into it is another thing. But that's like proof in the pudding.
Yeah. So now I'm like talking to this woman. I don't even know who she was, but something with HR. And I want to say she was in Australia. So the time zones were different and stuff. And I actually didn't like anything that she had to say. Like, I was just like, I do not want this job, lady, you know? But they made me an offer, and I was torn because I felt like this was such a crazy way that this just kind of fell into my lap. I wasn't looking, and maybe this is a step that I should take.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to because there was a big unknown. They couldn't provide me with a lot of information as to what the job was going to be about or like exactly what I would do. Yeah. So I just felt like there was a lot of risk.
Yeah.
And I went from print to online.
Yeah.
So that was like the biggest jump.
Yeah.
So I honestly took every last minute to give them my decision, and I spiraled in so many ways. I was like calling psychics. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I was like, I don't need to know anything but should I take this job? I'm not even joking. So finally, after like crying about it, doing all the things, I was like, I don't know. I'm not going to take it.
After all of that.
So I typed my email. I'm sorry. I don't even remember what I said. I hit send, and I didn't feel a sense of relief. So I was like, shit, did I just mess up?
Yeah.
Like, was that a mistake? I would say within the hour, I'm not kidding you, that woman wrote me back being like, I don't think so. Like, we don't think so. And I was just like,
no way.
What? The head wants to speak to you. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, all right, if this guy just says one thing I want to hear, like, I have to take this job, because it was like I went there kicking and screaming, but like the universe was like, you are taking this.
Yeah,
like,
this is your job.
No, this is your job. So I took the job.
Wow.
And 9 years later, I mean, it was like the best thing I ever did. You know, it forced me to grow in so many ways.
Yeah.
Kind of what you had mentioned earlier about, like, I think you said something about, did your career kind of pan out the way you expected? Yeah. And honestly, no. I had no idea, like, how it was going to evolve and grow. And,
wow.
And I owe so much to the Daily Mail.
That's amazing.
I know, isn't that? Story. But it was like the universe was like, "Girl,
wow.
Don't be an idiot. You're taking it."
But I have to say, one thing that's interesting is, like, you know, went on these interviews on Christmas. You spoke to psychics. I mean, the journey that you went through to get to a response, which was no first. But then, like, when you sent the email, I think what came to me when you said that when you sent the email, you're like, didn't sit right with you, is that you were going for like outside influence opinion. Yeah. Instead of listening maybe to your inner gut always knew it was yes, but you were maybe like, right? Because
I was
the minute you like felt that.
You know what it was? I let fear take over. Like the fear of the unknown. Yeah. And that really,
which is very easy to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so, wow, what an amazing story. And the blowout thing I get. I actually got a blowout for the show today.
Yeah, I was gonna.
You just feel shiny and new, and it's just like
Well, now these days I'm trying to embrace my like inner Bohemian.
I love.
Now that we're in California.
I grew up with very curly hair.
Yeah.
And now I want to go back to it, but then the stylist, because I did a lot of keratin, and she's like, you have to do this and this and that. I'm like, it's too much work. I'll just keep straight, even though I want to go curly. So you talked about fear being something that you think that's why you were kind of like, no, but even though maybe you wanted it, how did you persevere with, like, from that fear to be able to kind of push yourself to say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to...
In that instance, I didn't have a choice. That's how I felt.
Oh, because they were like, you're taking this.
No, I felt, in my mind, it was like literally the universe being like...
This is meant to be for you.
Yeah, there was just too many like coincidences. They weren't coincidences, but there were those kind of things that happened. There were just like too many unexplainable things that happened for this job to come to me. Yeah. The fact that I declined it and they came back to me. Yeah. You know what I mean? There was just so at that point, even though like I was scared, I knew like I was making the move for a reason.
Yeah. I love that. And actually that's a question that I'll ask really quick, but it's something that somebody asked me once a while back. So everything I do is based on intuition and feeling. Like I have no logic, it's all feeling, which I don't know if it's a good thing or bad thing, but that's how I live my life. Yeah. And then somebody asked one time, they're like, how do you know that that's like your intuition? Like, how do you listen to it? What is it? How would you explain that? Because, I mean, you live by that.
I don't know. I guess just that like inner voice, you know?
Yeah.
But I also, for me, like the gut, I don't know do they call it a gut instinct because you feel it in your gut?
Yeah.
Because that's what honestly, that's what happens.
Yeah.
I feel like my body, especially that area, is very like in tune with my brain, I guess. Also, randomly, not that long ago, I went to Tulum and I got like a Mayan massage. Have you ever done that?
No, but I want to.
So it's amazing. But you know how when you go for like a regular massage, they massage everything but the stomach?
Yeah.
So this entire, like 95% of this massage was just the stomach.
Wow.
It's no joke. I mean, one girl got like really sick. Like it's a whole thing. And they really go into like your gut, your whole,
wow.
They're moving organs.
Is that scary?
Look it up.
Wow.
You know, I went into it not knowing what I was doing. When I read about it afterwards, I was like, hang on, what? Because one of the girls in the group said that her woman told her that her uterus was too low, but that she put it back to where it was supposed to be.
Wow.
Yeah. So mine, the woman didn't speak English, but the one thing that she was able to say afterwards was that I'm very emotional and that I essentially carry my emotion like in my gut, and that she kind of massaged it out.
Wow. It's so fascinating to me, like speaking to you and like just doing this, because getting to know you deeper in this way,
Yeah.
there's so many things that you're saying to where I'm like, oh my gosh, because like my entire life going to psychics, the one thing they always say to me, all of them, and I say nothing, and they just say this to me, is that my problem area is my stomach and my gut, and that's what I have to work on. And I never understood what that meant till you started talking now, and I'm like, now I need to do a Mayan massage. But it's really interesting.
And something that I learned that I never thought of before is that if something is, so I basically what this woman told me was that that's where like I store all that like negative emotion.
Wow.
And I'm such an emotional person, you know?
Yep.
So I just didn't realize that like if something is bothering me and let's say like I don't work through it, that it stays in my stomach.
That's so interesting. Wow.
So now I think about that. Like if something bothers me, I'm like, let it go, because I don't want it to store it in my stomach for 5 more years or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. It reminds me of the let them theory. I don't know if you know, kind of let them. Yeah. So moving forward, is there an untapped dream that you haven't fulfilled that you think about kind of like in your next phase of life?
I mean, I'll start with the personal. Personal, I'd love to get married.
Okay, that's a good one. Yeah.
Now I feel like now it's like everyone's so career driven, and I feel like I have been so career driven that like that was something that kind of fell by the wayside.
I love that. Yeah.
So yeah, I'd like to meet a partner.
Yeah.
Kind of like travel, do stuff, settle down a little.
Yeah.
Professionally, I would say I'd like to like create more.
Okay.
I feel like I've always liked to make things.
Yeah.
I'd love to maybe like collab with a brand or like design something for a brand. I did a jewelry line like years ago with a brand, and it was just so much fun.
I could see you doing that for sure.
So like I'm interested in so many different things that I feel like, I don't know. And now I feel like because I'm so open and I feel like the universe and God, like I've been shown that things will just like come to me.
Yeah.
So I feel like when people say, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm like, I don't know. What does the universe have in store for me?
Yeah.
Like,
no, and I feel like, so you talked about finding like a partner, getting married. And I think it's so funny because, I mean, everything you're saying, I swear, and this is what I love about this, is like, I'm seeing so much of my journey through you, which I love that, you know? But I just recently met someone who I could say is like, for the first time, and I'm not saying that the others weren't, but for the first time, it's a real match. It's a match that makes sense in every aspect. Sometimes you have one and you don't have the other, but this person suits everything. But do you feel like, because you've been so spiritually kind of like awakened, universally letting things kind of guide you when it comes to your career, are you going to let that same path be for you finding love? Or do you think for that you have to kind of be more proactive? Like, what are your feelings of that?
I know it's so hard because it takes two, right?
Yeah.
So like I could do my part, but I need the other person to do it too. So I think I'm just letting it happen.
Organically.
Yeah. Because I don't really pursue, or I'm not even like the dating apps, like I'm so bad at it.
Yeah.
I think I'm just kind of.
It's just gonna. I feel like with you, after your stories, it's just gonna come. Honestly, you might walk in now into the studio, but really, I mean, you have such a light, and I've always seen that about you. But now it's like I already loved you as a person before. And now I'm just like so in awe of like everything that you are. It's amazing. When it comes to the transformations, like moving from New York to LA, the job, allowing yourself to not have that fear because you're like, this is meant to be for me. Like, I think just in every aspect of life, because moving, all these things are like, I think like pivotal changes in someone's life that really kind of like can get someone stuck. And is it always the same thing for you in terms of the courage through the moving, everything? Is it always because you just feel something that tells you this is the path, or is there another?
So the moving, honestly, because people say that to me all the time, that was like so courageous of you to move out to LA and not know anybody. I was more afraid of not doing it. Like like no joke, like the last year that I lived in New York, there were mornings that I would wake up with like complete anxiety because I was afraid that I wouldn't move, or I would let either, let's say my job at the time wouldn't let me do it, or I come from like a traditional Greek family. It's really rare for like somebody to move away from the home. It doesn't matter what age I am. My parents treat me like I'm 10. And so it's like I was afraid that I wouldn't have like the courage to tell them, hey, I'm leaving. I was more afraid to not do it than to do it. Doing it was easy. Yeah. And then funny enough, it was seamless. It was effortless. Like I had gone to Daily Mail, hey, I'd like to move. We fully support this. Yeah. I went to my parents, who I thought were going to give me such a hard time, and they were like, okay. I came out here to look for an apartment. I found it within like 5 minutes. I live on Ocean Avenue.
When it's meant to be, easy,
yes,
right?
It's just like, so I'm a firm believer in that. If it's meant to be, it's going to be like so easy, and it's not hard. Yeah.
My parents are Egyptian, so kind of like the Greek, I get it. It's like my mom still calls me, I mean, she's
every
like,
day.
asking me if I drink water, like questions like that, And but I love what you're saying is true, though. I feel like anytime I've ever had to try really hard at something and it wasn't working and I have to keep pushing, is not meant to be. Yeah. And I feel like the things that have been easy, like even creating Fashion Ovation, I was talking about this before, but I mean, it's not like I'm a fashionista by any sense of the word, but I love people. Yeah. And it's kind of interesting, like coming into starting it 7 years ago, not knowing one person in fashion to like what it evolved into. It was just easy because I just loved creating those relationships, and it just kind of fell into place to where it is today. So I love what you're saying about that. I think it's amazing. This is an interesting thing that we were thinking about, and I was thinking about lately, is as you evolve in life and you have all of these different, I always say we have many lives, right? Like a cat. And every stage, it's like when I look back, I'm like, oh my gosh, that feels like ages ago, right? Yes. But every stage of my life, I feel like my fashion has changed with the stages. Yeah. And so I would love for you to tell me a little bit about that. Like through your stages, has your fashion evolved with you as a person, or has it changed based on like the new persona that you've kind of adapted into?
So yes, it's definitely changed over the years in so many ways. I'm trying to think like why? Yeah. I think just like loving fashion and loving getting dressed and trying different things. But I went through like a vintage phase, like a ladylike, where I was wearing A-line dresses all the time and sequins and stuff like that, and that's a lot. I remember like not everyone can handle that. Like
ball gowns.
I feel like that was like maybe like a man repelling stage. You know what I mean? Guys don't get that. Yeah, they're not. Like. Then let's see. I definitely went through like a bohemian phase. Yeah. I think when I started blowing my hair out, then I went into more of like a feminine sexy phase. Okay. And I think that that's kind of like what the hair warranted. It was like everything was sleeker. The hair does make a difference, yes. Yeah, and now that I kind of went back to my curly, and now I'm kind of back to my bohemian ways. Okay, I love it. Like I've ditched the sequins, and now I'm in kimonos. I'm in silk. I'm in like things that are like comfortable. Yeah. But I would say with like a bohemian edge to it.
Yeah.
I
you
would
might
say
well.
like the environment definitely influences me.
It does.
Yeah.
And like your surroundings and people that you're around too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But actually though, I think, so I wanted to live in California for so long. It was just like a dream for so long. And I think that like I kind of was like quietly manifesting it, even though I didn't even realize that that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
So when I was in New York, the last couple years, I was wearing like my caftans, you know what I mean? And like in New York, that just doesn't make sense at all that I'm walking out in like a tropical caftan, on like the subway. You can picture it. Yeah. And so like now, obviously that makes sense. And I'm so happy that that's now my wardrobe.
Yeah.
Even then, even though that wasn't my environment,
Yeah.
I think that that's what I wanted my environment to be.
That
So
makes
even
sense.
my home looked like you just walked into like a hotel in Tulum.
Oh my God, that's fun.
Just like palm trees. This is like in Midtown Manhattan. You know what
I
mean?
love
With,
that.
Like, I guess I just wanted to feel that way.
Yeah, that's amazing. No, speaking of fashion is funny, but for a while, and it does depend, I think, also like in who you're with.
Yeah.
Because for a while in my previous relationship, I felt like I couldn't be as expressive as I'd like to be. Not because he didn't let me, but because
You didn't
comments,
understand it?
whatever. Yeah. And now in this new relationship that I'm in for the first time, I feel like I can fully be myself. And I'm finding that I'm liking this like rock and roll vibe that I've never done before.
Yeah.
And now it's like when I put it on, I'm like, oh my God, I feel so like this is what I want to be, you know?
You feel like yourself.
So it's really interesting too. I feel like having the right people that support you being yourself can also,
1,000%.
which is amazing.
Yeah.
I
Oh my
love
God,
it.
1,000%.
Yeah.
I can't imagine, like, I would never want someone telling me
Like,
what to wear.
Yeah. That's
a red flag.
A little one. So when you enter a room, talk to me a little bit about how kind of like what you're wearing kind of like jumps out to the people on the outside that are not feeling what you're feeling internally to having made that choice to put on what you put on.
That's tricky. I mean, I don't know what people are feeling, but I can tell you what I want them to feel. I guess I don't know. I guess for me, I've always really liked to get dressed up. I'm not one of those people who's afraid of being the most dressed up in the room. I feel like a lot of times I am.
Yeah.
But I also feel like, so for example, I live next door to this beautiful hotel that I love so much. I call it my home away from home, my Cheers. Everyone knows me by name. And I always go there dressed up. I will never go there in jeans or like not in my best.
Yeah.
And I think I do that like as a sign of respect. I feel like it's such a beautiful place that I want to go there and show them how much like I love it and appreciate it. And I hope that that's kind of how they look at me, or like I hope that they're glad that I walked in wearing like one of my prettiest dresses.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. For them to keep having that essence of what they're building with the environment of what the hotel is supposed to be, having people that go in there that represent that.
Yes, and just kind of like add to it versus like kind of bring it down or just kind of and like. And I like to do that if I go to someone's home.
Yeah.
I think like it's like a sign of respect. I think Tom Ford said that. Like it's right. Didn't he say like
he did something about that?
It's polite.
Which more people should think about that, because there are people sometimes that show up. I think even like I have 2 daughters and I'm a room mom. And sometimes for like mom like events at school, I mean, some of the things that the moms wear sometimes in those rooms, I'm like, did you like literally get out of bed and just like show up?
Right.
Which is kind of like, you're in a school setting, like, I don't know. I think you need to like think a little bit about your environment. And I think, that's a really good tip to give people to think about.
Because you're contributing to it. Do you know what I mean? I think if you're in a beautiful outfit, that might boost people's moods.
Exactly.
It might inspire them to also maybe get dressed up.
Exactly. Yeah. It's true.
Yeah, it's a mood booster.
It is. No, I lived in Minnesota for a short time.
Really?
Yeah, in a very small town. And I was the only brunette. Actually, everybody was blonde hair, blue eyed, but it was like a college town. There was like a main street with one bar. There was an Applebee's, which was a fancy restaurant, and everyone went Friday nights to the high school football game. That was literally the town. And Dairy Queen was the go-to for like after the movie theater. That was the life. And I did that for a year. Yeah. And I remember when I first got there, I walked into the town bar, and all the girls were in like, and nothing wrong with it, but they were in buns with their college hoodie and sweatpants and like flip-flops that you wear like in the house, like the poofy ones. And I walked in, because I didn't expect it, with skinny jeans and a camisole top and jewelry and heels. And you know when you walk into a bar and you hear the music and everyone looks? That's what I felt. But after that moment, I thought about it. I'm like, do I start showing up like that? Or do I continue to be me? Or are they going to accept me? But I just continue to be me. And it actually was my superpower in the town in a sense.
Yes.
But I think like there's a lot, to be said. I think it's just people follow, right, what the environment is. But it could change with one person that could maybe inspire others.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was at a party not that long ago, and I overheard these two girls who were dressed up saying, it's not easy being best dressed. I was just like, I love that. And sometimes it's not. So like kind of it takes courage to get dressed up knowing that no one else there will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true.
But I support that.
What's a quote that you live by?
I love your presence is your power.
Love that.
I think about that a lot, like on so many levels. I feel like for me, it's kind of like, okay, if I'm going somewhere, I want to like uplift the room, or I want to be a positive force. I never want to like bring it down.
Yeah.
Or like, and I love it from like maybe even like a fashion.
I was just going to say
what I mean?
that.
It's kind of like how you present yourself.
Yeah.
But it's like we're in control of that. Like our presence, who we are, what we give off, that's our power.
I love that.
Yeah.
Wow. Beautiful.
And it's like your unique self, you know? Yeah.
That's exactly, actually, I feel like everything that I just felt from you energy-wise is exactly who you are and so much more. Because I think what you just said, I love presence is your power. I never heard it before, but it's beautiful. And I think you every time I see you, like the way that you portray yourself, it just makes me happy because visually it's super stimulating, but also I see how happy you are in it and the energy that you bring wearing the clothes, and I think that's what makes fashion so unique.
Yeah.
So it's very, like, to me, the universe, they know what they're doing with like having brought all of this stuff into your lap because you're meant to inspire people through fashion. Like that's, and I see that your journey has led you to all of the things you've done, and I'm so excited for all the things to come. But thank you so much. This was like such a beautiful interview.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I just finished speaking to Pandora Amoratis, and it was a beautiful interview because, first you realize that life is life and we're all living it in our own way because that's what we were brought here to do. And whether we choose to accept the signs and the voices or not, eventually you're going to end up on this path that you're meant to be on. And I think when you embrace it and you give it your all, you become someone who can inspire many just through what you love in life. And I think that's a beautiful thing and something that I took away from this interview. And looking at that, it too can be you.